Delighted to be back. This time, it's not the non-league show, but delighted to have probably the face of non-league, as I call him at the minute. Joe Skelton, delighted to have him back.
Great to have me back, mate.
Yeah, fist pump. As well, after the popular demand after the last one.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a long time, hasn't it been? I mean, It's changing temperature. I think we've got the jumpers now on these days. But no, thank you for having me back, mate. Really appreciate it.
Brilliant. I want to quickly ask what you've been up to recently. I know that you're doing some great stuff with the Bells. Do you want to quickly talk about what you've been up to recently?
Yeah, so it's been, well, with the Bells this season, it's been a lot of changes at the football club, with Andy Butler leaving and Nick Buxton now is number 2 coming into filling, being the number 1 as well. It's been a real ride as well. It's been fantastic just to see them fighting Starbridge, fighting Solihull Moors as well. It's doing the commentary stuff as well. It's been amazing as well. Of course, they've got Lincoln City at the Eco Power as well on Sunday, so it's fantastic time. It's great to be a part of it, and I'm learning so much about, not just from I've done a lot of stuff with the non-league side, but also the women's game as well, and how that operates as well. I just want to see more stuff happening, more stuff promoted for this side of the game. It's truly amazing stuff, and there's some really good people that work for it. So if there's any, for me and for everyone else that watches these videos, go and watch some of the women's football, because you'd be surprised. It's fantastic to get involved in it.
Definitely. Still doing the ground hopping stuff as well alongside it.
100%, yes. So of course, doing a lot of the local teams as well. We're Retford United, been to Thorn recently so far this season, at Rosington as well, Armthorpe, trying to venture out a bit more, trying to do a lot more football league teams as well. So yeah, it's just great trying to tick off some of the 92, because that is a lifetime achievement if I can do that.
That's brilliant. Like you said, if you didn't watch the last video, what me and Joe kind of did, we kind of sat down in pre-season and kind of spoke about our predictions really as well, didn't we? So we're going to go through some of them today. So yeah, there's some ones that you've actually done quite well with, to be fair.
Yes, there is. I mean, like I say, I think there's been some great stories this season involving the Donny teams as well. There's been some real great matches as well. Of course, I'm not going to get every prediction correct, but now there's been some good ones. We'll kick off with Thorn. Of course, we both of you know very, very well. Thorn have been good this season. All right, Retford are running away with the Central Midlands this season so far, but Thorn, as I predicted, would be in the top 3, easy. Like I say, obviously, they're not going to go up this season. It's going to be tough for them. But if it's not going to be this season, it's definitely going to be next season for them, 100%. Rosington, I thought they'd be in the playoffs again. The job Ben Hunter's done over this last 12 months, 18 months with the players he's brought in, it's been absolutely superb. There's been some great games that I've seen them play, and he's putting together a good side. So it's been really enjoyable.
Starting with Thorn, like you said then, I know that they are in second, and I think like a lot of people said they have underachieved this season. But you are going up against, like you said, Retford, who are probably paying a lot more money than Thorn.
Yes.
What's your opinion on the Central Midlands standings as it is now? And have you had a chance to go to many of the games so far?
I have, and I mean, when I went back in August to watch Retford against Thorn at Thorn, it was a difficult game. You could see the level between the two. Thorn started well. They really should have been 2-0 up against them, but that bit of quality from Retford, you could see that. And all right, there was a couple of mistakes that Thorn made, but I think speaking to James O'Neill, the manager, it's a relatively young side. They're going to get better. For me, Retford the money that they've shelled out this season on bringing in some real quality from, some of them are ex-Hallam, ex-Handsworth, just to name a couple of the teams that have played, ex-Ferriby as well, they've come in, and you could see that. I think after, not going up last season, Newark winning the league, I think it's ever so much them that they're determined to go back up to Northern Counties. So I think for me, I think the standard has got so much better. All right, losing Claycross to go down to the south is kind of opened up a bit more for the likes of Durham District, the likes of Harworth as well. They've come into it, Blackwell. So there's some good teams that have kind of filled that void that Claycross moving into the south, but overall the north is still a strong league. You can see why. I mean, it still frustrates me why only one goes up from that league. Really, 2 should go up with the quality that you see with the teams these days that, well, like I say, we talk about the money that have been shelled out with a lot of them. So I think Thorn, underachieved, maybe a little bit unfair, but I think, like you say, you're right. Going up against the likes of Retford United, it's always going to be a tough ask, isn't it?
Yeah, like you said, I think with Retford as well, do you feel that maybe there were a slight bit of pressure on the club as a whole to, like you said, they've been in that league now quite a lot of years. Do you reckon there is pressure on the club to get up, because they are, like you said, they are a big enough club probably to play in the NCL? North East Counties, sorry. Do you reckon there were pressure on the club as a whole to get up?
I think so. I think when you look at the history of Retford United, once 10 years ago they were playing step-free football, and the way that they formed is very dramatic. So yes, there is a lot of pressure that comes with it, and I think Ryan's done a great job there. Keeping the likes of Mark West, who scored 44 last season in Central Midlands, is an excellent striker, and I think that what drives them to go is to get promoted. So I think once they get over that hurdle of going into the Northern Counties, I think you'll see the best out of Retford. So even as I've said to you, and I said this in pre-season, North Counties is a hard league. Division 1 and the Prem is a very hard league to get out of, to get into the Northern Prem. So I think they'll find once they'll get into it, yes, they'll do really, really well, but they'll find when they get into those leagues, they're not going to have it all their way.
No. This is one thing I wanted to ask you as well regarding Fulham. Like you said, there is only one team that can go up from Central Midlands. If you were in James's shoes now, knowing that it's not looking like that you're going to go up, would you kind of make some decisions now on players regarding next year and maybe build a younger side? Maybe play some of the 21s, some of the young lads. Would you go down that route, or would you kind of maybe still try and go for it, or how would you, if you were in Neely's shoes now, how would you kind of go about it?
It's a good question. I think you're right, considering that one goes up, it is difficult. You really are playing for second place, really, in that this season. But for me, you still got to go for it, because you never know. Like I say, amazing things have happened in football, but you want to keep that momentum going into next season. You want to build on that. So, but as you said, it's a young side. I think he could dabble with playing some of the under-21s. Give them some experience. After all, the conversations I've had with him, this is the first season at this level. They're coming up against players that have played 200-300 games at a very good level. So if they're mixing it well, I think it's going to get better for James. I think, but you're right. I think there is that cautious approach of whether, as they get over to the new year, do we still play? Because again, there still are teams. The likes of Durn are still throwing some money. Blackwell, Harworth in that mix. Diddington, of course, I haven't mentioned. They're going to try and get for second place, so they'll want to get that momentum to push on for next season, because they'll fancy their chances of going up. As soon as they lose Retford, you'll see a bit more of an even playing field going into next season.
Definitely. Have you had many chances to go to any games across the Central Midlands League this year then?
I have. I mean, probably not as much as I would have liked.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to kind of do more, in different leagues as well. But I like going to Central Midlands. I think there's some great grounds that you don't get to do. Since I've moved to Retford, I've kind of tried to go down to some of the southern teams as well. So there's Arnold Town, who they were absolutely great people that worked there down towards Nottingham Way. Really made me feel welcome as well. I want to do some more in the north as well. I've not had the chance to go to Blackwell. That's been on my list for forever. Yeah. They've always keep asking me to come down. I will at some point. But like I say, there's Harworth, which I've really enjoyed going to this season. I saw them playing against Kiverton. Kiverton started off okay, but Harworth, of course, with all the stuff that's happened with the management going to Rennes, it's been kind of dominated that, and they've taken a couple of the players from.
They took quite a lot, haven't they?
They did, yeah. Which I was surprised when I seen the news that broke. I was a little bit surprised. They had a good squad there. I thought they would be. Last season they were really pushing for that top 5 place, which, all right, they just missed out. But for me, Ash and Dan did a great job last season. All right, they've going up a league, going to United Counties. It's a different ball game. There's no pun intended there. There's some tough teams again in that league. So I think there's just still finding their feet at the moment with going to Rennes. But for me, Central Midlands, it's a very exciting league, and I've really enjoyed covering it over the last 2 years, really, that I've been able to go and follow some of the teams. One
thing that I want to ask you about, something that was in the free press recently.
Yes.
I know that we had a little chat about it before we switched the camera on. Was a game Formby Hatfield recently.
Yes.
I want to quickly ask you about your thoughts on that so far, because I know that we've had a chat about it.
Yes.
I know you weren't there, but I know that you've obviously seen everything that's been said.
Yeah, so I've read the Free Press article. I've had a chat to Mark Phillips, the chairman there, and he told me everything that happened. And if I'm honest, it's embarrassing. You know, if some of the stuff that has been said, and some of the stuff that's come out, it's absolutely embarrassing for the football club. If it is a lot of the stuff that is true, but the problem is that when things like that are going to boil over, isn't it? You know, it's going to happen. You know, all right, Thorn were winning 4-0. It's going to be a frustrating afternoon, but you know, for some of the stuff to come out like that and to get red carded, apparently punches were swung and everything. It's just there's no need in the game, but. I have to say, I'm disappointed I didn't vlog that game because I would have had a great position for that.
yeah. Like you said, it is a bad look on like the league as a whole, and it does make it look a bit amateurist. But like you said as well, it is a local derby. Hatfield would have been up for it, Thorn would have been up for it. Like you said, there's barely a couple of miles between them. But like you said, it is like they said, the fact that it's got into the Free Press, it is a bit of a bad look on the league as a whole, isn't it?
It does, and I think bad, as I say, bad news always sells. But like I say, you're right. It does make it a little bit amateurish, and compared to the other feeder leagues around the UK and even some of the rounds around Yorkshire as well, I've always said Central Midlands is always the strongest at feeder league out of all of them. Yeah. But if you're going to do like that, it just goes back to what non-league was maybe 10, 15 years ago when people were doing that. So. I like to say that non-league has grown and the quality has shown, but when things like that happen, it just takes you're right. It does take you back to go. No, we can't have this in the game anymore. Yeah,
like you said as well. It's just I couldn't believe it when I saw it. But like you said, moving on now, we'll move on to the North East counties.
Yes.
Like you said, Roddington, Armthorpe. Armthorpe didn't start very well, did they? They had a very poor start to the season, but they have picked up now very well. They're near enough there or abouts. The playoff spots, which is an unbelievable comeback we've had started.
They have. I mean, like I say, I remember going down to the Donny Derby earlier in the season where Rossington were too strong for Armthorpe, and you really think you started to fear a little bit that Armthorpe were going to be in a relegation battle. But credit to Lee, credit to his staff and the players. They turned it around. They're in the top 10. They've done brilliantly, and I think I think going into the Christmas break, I think they'll start to flourish. I think they'll get a few more results. They've got real momentum behind them, and I think when they do play Rossington again in the Donny Derby in the new year, I think it'll be a different game. So, but like I say, credit to Lee. He's done a good job. He's a great lad. But you talk about Rossington then. Again, inside the top 4, in the playoffs again, as I predicted as well at the start of the season. I thought Ben's done a great job. With what he's done, the last saw them against Worsborough and they were brilliant. All right, Worsborough not the team that they were last season, but they put them away. All right, losing Adam Baskerville to Sheffield FC is a big loss. He was 15 goals he scored in the season. It's a big loss for them. Sheffield have pretty much picked up a good little gem there, but you look at the likes of Ross Hannah, you got Tyler Bell that's in there, scoring goals. They've got to start stepping up now. So it's difficult. All right, Horbury again, campion and running away with this league at the moment, but Rossington, I think they'll fancy the chances. This is probably the best time to go up this season for them, and if it's not going to be this season, they'll have a great chance next season. Yeah,
like you said as well, just a question regarding Central Midlands and North East counties now, Rossington and Thornley. Do you reckon the gap has kind of narrowed a little bit now in quality, knowing that you've probably got maybe a good 6, 7, 8 Central Midlands teams that could go and compete in that league and probably do well?
Oh yeah, I think definitely. I think when you look at some of the teams that are in that Central Midlands now, Dinnington, Thorn, I think Thorn would probably compete really well. I think, all right, they'll probably need a bit of quality, 1 or 2 players going into it, but I think they'll do just fine. I think they'll comfortably survive. But you're right, I think the gap is starting to narrow, which is, I think, is good. But at the same time, I think because money's starting to go into it as well, you're starting to see teams, like I said, the likes of Redford United paying the wages that you've seen as well. Wakefield have come into it as well. They've got a bit of money behind them. All right, they came from the Sheffield League, but they're competing well. So it's making it exciting, because I think maybe the bottom 6 the Northern Counties and the top 6 the Central Midlands, I don't think there's much much of a gap between the two. So you could probably swap them around, and I don't think there'd be much difference.
I know that at the start of the season there were a period of time when obviously the leagues came out and stuff, and you had like Stavely who moved down a league.
Yes.
Do you agree with that sort of stuff happening? I know that Stavely are having a bit of a rebuild, but the fact that they've done well in the league above, but then they've had to come down, and obviously the Humber United stuff and all that stuff as well. Do you agree with that sort of approach that the league did?
It's hard. I think there's a lot of people who got hurt with that, especially with the Humber United stuff. All right, I was looking, going into it. I was going to make a video about everything if it did pull off with Humber and Asken, becoming Asken and staying in Northern Counties. I'm going to make a video on that and just seeing how everything pulled off. I understand Retford United's argument that okay, they didn't go down. Newark have moved east. Someone should go and avoid that place, but I understand that argument. But at the end of the day, the rules are the rules with that league. One goes up, and if Newark decide to go Northern Counties, United Counties, so be it. But I think when you look at Stavely, all right, it's difficult. But when they were paying what they are, because the ground's excellent. It's a brilliant ground. I was there the other week when they played Emily in the Cup. It's a beautiful it's a beautiful ground for the level. In terms of having a voluntary relegation, I don't agree with it, because I think it kind of undermines the approach of okay, do you really want to compete at this level?
Yeah.
If not, why are you not doing that? You should as a club, as a person, for me, you should be evolving, not having to take a step back and then take two forward. For me. All right, then maybe some people might argue, sometimes you've got to do that, but I think as a football club, you've got to evolve, and some of the stuff that they were paying and everything else, to try and compete. That all right, the Prem is a difficult league, but for me, you've got to evolve with that. And all right, they're doing well, and they're inside the top 6 this season. But if it was me, if I was in the hierarchy, I would have said no. And you said, look, you've got to get relegated on your own, not if it means having to up your wages and do that, so be it. Yeah,
definitely. Moving on now to Worksop. Like you said, we're absolutely flying at the minute.
Yes.
Do you want to quickly talk about Worksop? Yeah,
it's been a great ride for them. I think looking at last season where they finished 6th, they just finished, outside the playoffs. All right, the teams are in there, they were too strong for them, but this season, the likes of signing, Liam Hughes, James Hansen,
big
quality,
signing.
Terry Hawkridge, Liam Hardy's been there. I know Liam really, really well. It's some fantastic players that have really come to that football club. 16 wins this season in a row, absolutely astonishing. 8 points clear at the top of the table. It's going to take something. I think only Stockton for me that could really stop them, for me. But Worksop. The facilities are there. They've got the right management. They've got the right players.
The facilities are class there as well, aren't they?
Superb. You might have seen as well. They've recently just added the seats behind the goal as well, so they've changed it around. So the main stand's going to be standing along the pitch, and behind the goal is going to be all seating, which is, I think, it's a great idea.
I've been there before, to be fair, and played on the pitch, and it's AstroTurf as well.
3G, yeah.
So it's a class setup as well. They've got the 21s coming through, and like you said, Cleethorpes as well. They were competing as well at one point. They were up there, they kind of sloped off a little bit on it.
Yeah, I saw them early in the season. They played Grantham, and probably the worst game I'd seen this season on the channel. But again, signing Decal, who was at Stavely, he's gone to Cleethorpes and really excelled again. Deck, who I know that went to Hunger Hill, and playing against him all the time was really annoying to play against. But he's a great lad. They've started well. They're inside the top 3, and you're right, they've started 4th for Cliff, and maybe this is their blip at the moment. But I think some of the games that they've come up this season, of course, they've got a big game on Boxing Day against Grimsby Borough, which I think, from what a couple of the fans are telling me, they're expecting something like 1,500. That's going to be fantastic. So
is that at Cleethorpes?
It's at Cleethorpes.
Yeah. So the Boxing Day fixtures do really well. Like onto Deck as well. Like you said, Deck's flying at the minute, and I think he played in America, then he's come back. He did really well at Stavely. Now he's gone to Cleethorpes and just excelled really. And I think there's loads of interest as well from from leagues higher as well, and like you said, he's just really just gone and smashed it, hasn't he, there?
Yeah, and I think he's a type of player that'll go. He does the right things. You know, he's not one of those that, you know, he looks after himself. He will, you know, he trains hard. He scores goals, so that's great for any striker. And I think I think he can go to the highest level. You know, I think he can go up to the top of the National League. You know, he's a young lad. You know, he's only going to get better, as we've just said there. And I think, you know, he's playing at a good level, a step forward. You know, Northern Premier is, like I say, it's a good league. You know, some great teams in that league. So, like I say, he could go to step 3, maybe even to the National League. You know, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I would love to see Deck there. But like I said, he's got to stop going to the Beverley, hasn't you, Deck? Like I said, he's always there with me on a Friday doing the quiz. So that's just one to Deck. Stop going to Beverley and get him ready for the game. Another topic that we didn't actually get a chance to talk about, which was a bit frustrating on our last video, was the Doncaster City stuff.
Yes.
I know that we had a very brief conversation. We'll save it to the video. I'm going to ask for your thoughts on that first, and then we'll have a bit of a debate about it.
Yeah, it's an interesting subject ever since the club has been formed. You know, I watched some of the YouTube stuff, because it is quite good actually. Some of the production that they've got is actually really, really good. But I think in terms of everything, yes, they've had a lot of publicity stuff at the likes of the Scottish Cup. And
do you reckon do you reckon they were actually ever going to do that, or was that just kind of a publicity kind of?
It's difficult. I think if they'd have actually got accepted, I would have liked to see what they would have done, and then try and see if they could compete. But you're probably right. It probably was a publicity stunt, but it got them talking.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think, you know, any publicity is good publicity.
They had a lot of broadcasters as well going. I think I can't remember who it was now, but they had. I think it was maybe Calendar. I think go and visit him. Yep. I think as well. So like you said, in that aspect, they're doing right things, because a lot of eyes are on the club and stuff like that. And like you said, in the long run, I know that you're a big Donny Rovers fan.
Yes.
I know that. Do you have any thoughts about whether they can maybe compete with Donny in the future, or?
See, it's interesting because I don't want to say no and then it bites me in the backside. Yeah. But the problem is when you've got a club that's established like Rovers, the way the catchment area is for me is, a lot of time with Rovers in Doncaster as a whole, you've got Sheffield United, you've got Sheff Wednesday, you've got Leeds, you've got, you know, even Scunny. There's down the road. There's some Scunny fans that live in Donny, and then you've got your Man Uniteds, the Liverpools, the Chelseas that live, you know, the fans here. So it's very difficult for Donny City, and it's very difficult for Rovers at the moment. Considering the football at the moment, it's not fantastic at the minute. I think for Donny City, they could be maybe an FC9 Manchester. If the owners, some of the fans don't particularly like the owners, they might go and support Donny City as a bit of a protest against them. But I think in the long run we'll see. I think I've had a lot of conversation with my dad about this, and you know, he thinks for me it's going to be difficult for them. But who knows? I think, you know, they're in a league where
it's not a great standard, is it?
No, it's not. But I think once they get. They are in the Sheffield League. I think once they get up to the Prem, and eventually if they get to the Northern Counties, we'll see what the test is for them. But I think it's hard to judge at the moment how far they can really go.
What do you think toward the plans and stuff like that? I know they put a big video out on social media regarding they're going to build the pitch, the infrastructure as well. They were going to have loads of, I think, like housing and stuff like that for people coming over from America. Like you said, the whole setup did look class on the video, but like you said, there's one thing saying it and one thing doing it. And if it does come off, it would be class for Doncaster as a whole. Like you said, like more clubs competing, the better. But do you think all that stuff will come off?
It's hard. Again, it goes back to the fan base, and it goes back to whether they can bring in the revenue. My opinion is, at the moment, there won't be, because I don't think the fan base is there. I think the problem is you can forget Rovers in terms of the fan base, but when you look at the more established non-league clubs around here, Rosington, Arnthorpe, Thorn, Frickley, that's up the road, Harworth, Retford United, Retford FC. You know, there's even there's hard. It's hard for them to really compete, and I think it'd be great for them to compete against them, but I think trying to bring in the revenue and the fan base at the moment is a lot difficult for them. But we'll see in the long run. I've
actually trained with Donny City, to be fair, so I've gone and seen some of the facilities.
Yeah.
So I think it was a long Thursday night. I'm travelling down with one of my pals who plays for him as well. So we're going down this long alleyway,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, where are we getting taken here? Because it's like this massive farmland kind of thing. I think it's in Retford. So we're going down this massive dark alley. I'm thinking, where on earth am I going here? So we get there and you pull up, and to be fair, there's like an outdoor astro in front of a massive house. So yeah, we obviously got there. There were massive outdoor astroturf. About 5-a-side, to be fair, not too big. And then there was an indoor astroturf as well. So they are kind of starting the infrastructure as well, which shows that they maybe do have plans to obviously go forward with that. But like you said, it's just mad in it, knowing that all this stuff is going on and stuff like that, and some of the people that I'm hearing are behind it. It's crazy, but it's interesting.
It is, and you know, it does intrigue me. I mean, like I say, I think I will probably go and do a Donny City game at some point and go and vlog it and just see what it's all about. But I think when you look at some of the places around, even look at around the country, they've got two clubs in very. Well, Retford's a great example. You know, when you've got two clubs in a town that's half the size of Doncaster, you know, again, they're good supported, you know, they're well established, but I think adding another one to it, especially with Rovers have always been number one here. You know, we've always been the number one club. So I think to try and establish another club in this area is going to be difficult for them. So, but I think it can be done, you know, as we've seen with Retford, and even when you go up to a bit further, like the likes of Dundee, they've got two clubs in a town like that. But in a city, well, it's a city really. But I like to say it's going to be difficult for Donny to try and bring, as I've said, bring that fan base in for them.
Definitely. Like I said, we're going to have a quick chat about Scunny before we go into some quick fire questions. I know that we spoke about Scunthorpe at the start and the kind of turmoil, but it's kind of starting to turn around a bit. Ownerships are in.
Yes.
New owners. Sorry.
Yes. So as I've known from what we've seen, it's probably about 95% more certain that it's going to happen. I think it's great that, in a way, it's great for them that they've got the club back. They can, breathe new life into it. I think there's been so much turmoil over the last 18 months that, it's probably gone on longer than that. That, well, we've seen as well that the players and the staff hadn't got paid. So, like I say, I wouldn't like to see any football club go out of business, even if it's my worst enemy. I would not like to see that at all. There's people's livelihoods and people's passion that they go and support a football club like that. But for Scunthorpe, it's great, and they can finally start competing. All right, they lost to Notts County. Notts County are more likely, I've said, that they'll
Football League club. Yeah,
they're going to go up this season. I think they'll win the league. Personally, I'll put my neck on the line and say that they'll beat Wrexham to the title. But Scunny, I think if they survive the season, I think that'll be more of a big achievement for them. So we'll see. I think they've got to get to January and they've got to sign the players. So, but yeah, we'll see.
It's madness to think that Scunthorpe could end up in the National League North for me. Just like you said, I think you've got a couple of teams in the National League who are only part-time as well, and just like you said, Scunthorpe at one point were competing to be in they were in the Championship.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's just madness to think how low, do you know what I mean, down the football pyramid they've gone. But it's a shame to see, but hopefully these new owners will come in and they'll pick up.
Well, you look at the teams that have gone down. I mean, the great example is Stockport. They were nationally north for a good 2-3 years, and then you've seen them. They've rose back up. They're in the Football League now. They're competing well. You've got some tough teams. You've got teams down at nationally north that were once Football League clubs, like Chester, Kidderminster. You've got Boston United are in there. So I think for Scunthorpe, I think if they did go down, yes, it would be tough for them to get back up, but it might not be such a bad thing to reset and go, right, let's just go for it and start again and try and climb up and do what Stockport did.
Definitely. Right, to finish, we're going to have some little quick fire questions. So I'm going to say a club.
Yeah.
You're going to say how you think they'll finish. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think where they'll finish in the league, and then I'm going to ask you as well after to rate their infrastructure facilities out of 10.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right. We'll start with the North East counties.
Yes.
So we'll start with Retford FC.
Retford will finish 8th. They've had a good start. They've fallen away a little bit, but I think they'll be comfortably inside top 10. I think they'll just miss out on the playoffs.
Facilities?
I'd say an 8. I really like the ground. I think it's very unique, as I said in the video. So yeah, an 8 out of 10 for me.
Grantham.
Grantham.
But we had a chat about their ground, didn't we?
We did. I think they'll be mid-table. I don't think they'll survive. I don't think they'll go down. I don't think they'll be anywhere near the playoffs, but so mid-table, so I say 12th, 13th for me.
Facilities?
It's not one of my favourite grounds because you
Has he got the running track round?
Yeah,
I thought he did.
You're gonna need binoculars, mate, to try and play, to try and watch the game. I'd probably say out of 10, I'd give it a 5.
Yeah, like you said, do you know what, from the outside looking in, I know it's got the big Grantham sign there, and it looks good for there. But when, like you said, the running tracker, I hate grounds with the running track. I just
You
don't
feel so
like it
far
at all.
away, yeah.
You know, even with West Ham, I know they've got it as well. It's just a nightmare. So a bit of a technical issue, like always with this camera. Arm foot.
I think after the tough start they've had, I think they'll be top 10. I think they'll finish 9th. For me, I think Lee's done a terrific job turning that club around from where they were at the start of the season to where they are now.
Brilliant. Form. In fact, we'll go facilities for Arm foot.
Facilities, nice ground. They could do a little bit better drainage, but it's a lovely little ground. I'd go 7 for me.
Brilliant. Form.
Thorn, they'll be 2nd. I think they'll be best of the rest. I think James has done a terrific job, so I think the carrying momentum from this season, next season, I think I'm going to put my neck on line. I think they'll win the league next season. Facilities come on a long way, by the way. It has. I think Mark and the team have done a great job putting the ground together. 7 for me. 7, brilliant. Hatfield, finish with Hatfield. Hatfield, tough one. I'm going to go. They'll be mid-table. I think they'll finish about 14th. Yeah, they are. They are quite low at the minute, but yeah, they have picked up a little bit. Have you had a chance to go to their ground actually? I've not had. Again, that's on my list. I know it's down Broadway, which is where the ground is. But it's on my list to do for me. But yes, it's something to tick off for me for next year. Brilliant. Cheers for your time again. Always a pleasure, Joe. Yes. I appreciate it. It's decent to obviously chat all things non-league, especially to look back on predictions and stuff like that. It's interesting to see, but I think you've done pretty well there, mate, to be fair. Yeah, not bad. We've reeled off a few nice topics there. So thanks everyone for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and hopefully we can do something on your channel soon. Love that. Even if it's comms or something like we mentioned. But yeah, thanks for watching, and make sure you like and subscribe, and see you all soon.